Want to make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily, then distribute it everywhere, and even earn money. We like that. All in one place for totally free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your cellular telephone or your computer, so no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else, those other places that podcasts are heard.
Video podcasts are also available on Spotify, and when you want to take conversations with your fans to the next level, Q&As and polls are the best way to get them talking. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free, zero catch. We've been using it ever since we started How Long Gone. And ever since I discovered Spotify for Podcasters, I feel like having the option of turning off the Q&As and the polls on the user dashboard has really helped boost my creativity and take it to another level. I highly recommend giving it a try. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. What is good, Chris Black? I am I'm finally back home and feeling like I'm somewhat of a human being again. I'm sitting in my chair at my desk that is at a proper
My chair.
I literally just sat down in my desk, which is like a tall person's adjustable desk with a tall person's office chair, and I was like, oh yeah, I miss this, which I guess is bad.
No, that's good.
I shouldn't be missing office furniture, but it felt good to be home. And I was taking for granted what the home that I had created.
Of course. Well, how many cocktails did you have last night?
I had one cocktail, Chris, but it consisted of shrimp, actually. And that's not a joke. I really did eat shrimp cocktail last night.
At home, or did you go somewhere?
At home, from Fish King, baby.
Damn, that sounds good, bro. I love I love shrimp cocktail. That's the only kind of martini glass usage I'm getting these days. So
for the next week at least, I'll be in the same boat as you. But I mean, there's just something nice about getting a shrimp cocktail. I think it was like half a dozen shrimps, $9.
Wait, hold on. That should be $28. So I'm a little confused.
That's what I'm saying. But because
are you saying they mark this up at these locations?
I think I'm starting to learn now that they're marking up the cost of this stuff. But I mean, especially seafood. But I mean, it couldn't be easier. The preparation of making shrimp cocktail is so fun. I mean, like, you go to a restaurant and you're like, oh, this is like our black cod miso, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, all right, man in the kitchen spent some time doing some shit. But for the shrimp cocktail, it's like, put it on ice, served with some cocktail sauce that we mixed already. That's it.
I love that. Congratulations. That sounds good. Yeah, I went to the pool straight from Burbank yesterday, and honestly, it felt like I was bathing in God's light. It did make me feel much better.
I'm happy for you, bro. Yeah,
because I was feeling a little rough too, man. I don't understand how I feel hungover too when I don't drink or do drugs.
You got contact high, baby.
I guess I did. I guess being around you just brings me up, and then it sends me crashing down. Yeah, it's the TJ effect.
You had to live and walk a mile in my shoes, and you said no thanks. But also, go a little easy on yourself, because you were in New York for a week, then you flew across the country to LA for one day, woke up again at 5 in the morning, and then went and flew again, spending all day in the airport, right back to the East Coast time zone at least, and then
it's true.
Spent 2 days going out while also waking up at 5 every morning. And then you wake up at 4:30 and get on a plane and then go back to the PST 2 days later. I don't care if you're drinking and doing drugs. That's gonna fuck you up.
That's gonna fuck me up, bro. It is.
Even a person in optimal health like yourself.
It felt nice to sit down on the plane yesterday and get a lot of reading done. I have to say I feel like I spent my time on that last leg from Dallas to Los Angeles in a really nice way.
It is nice when you do that and you're like, you know what? I'm reading the newspaper, or I'm reading a book or a magazine, and it's actually entertaining me. And I don't have to, get that from watching season 1, episode 4 of Entourage, like how I was spending my time. But hey.
Yeah, brain dead TJ was instead filling his mind with junk food, much like his mouth. And I, of course, was finishing an issue of the New Yorker, the New York Times, Sunday newspaper, which is obviously a thickie.
Yeah, I checked out the New Yorker as well. I was learning about the talks of the town, all the new the theatrical dance openings that were going on in New York. There was a lot of relevant stuff to my life.
I did read 50 pages of this book everyone's talking about. No One Is Talking About This by Patricia Lockwood, and it was pretty good.
What is it about, though?
It's about the internet, and she's calling it the portal, and it's fucking funny. There's some really funny shit in it.
The portal.
Yeah, it's pretty esoteric, but it's cool so far. But it's very popular. But it made me chuckle a few times, which is nice. Okay. But just, using my time wisely, because this garbage American Airlines, they expect you to use your own device to watch their programming on your phone. They make a little stand in the seat back.
Yeah, that's kind of fucked up. And as a person who would never watch a movie on their phone unless I was in jail or something, I'm not going to be an iPad bro either. Like, I'm old, but I ain't that old.
Literally, iPad bro is you got to be 50 plus.
Mm-hmm. You got to be 50 plus, or you have to be like a rep, like a product rep, and on the go a lot. You need a little bit more computing power.
Yes.
Where like I was just at Erewhon getting a pre-pod Cococino, and there was
really?
A Harmless Harvest rep.
So sick.
Checking the shelves, and I almost had to stop him and be like, bro, let me hold your hat, please, because he had a nice Harmless Harvest. Why
don't you just jump it? I thought you were a real one. Beat his ass and take it. You know what I mean? Like, take his whole what you should do is beat his ass, steal his hat, and then take his keys while he's down and take the whole truck.
Okay, that's a good idea. And obviously I will get caught doing that, Monday morning in the middle of Erewhon. I will be prosecuted by the police, but it's good for my reputation, in this world as a soft podcaster.
Yeah, people keep coming up to me and be like, damn, your man is a little bit soft. Like, he used to be, I thought he was from the streets. I used to see him in the train yards back in the day. Like, what happened? And I'm like, Jason needs to kind of like reestablish himself as a real bruiser.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because even though I work out a lot and am chiseled from stone, I am a pussy. Mm-hmm. So it's not like, if you approach me, I will run away.
I need to do less white collar crimes and more blue collar crimes.
Exactly. Let me hold the white collar stuff. Don't worry. I'll deal with the offshore stuff, and the crypto, I guess. Yeah. And you deal with whipping ass.
And then I'm going to, I heard a shipment of Harmless Harvest was coming in from the docks tonight. It'd be a shame if me and my boys were there to intercept the,
I heard a rumor there's a shipment of pure Harmless Harvest coming into the docks tonight at midnight. So we're gonna have a sting.
It's gonna be a Bad Boys 2 scenario.
Damn, we should remake. Is that a Desus and Mero joke? Do they want to remake Bad Boys 2?
I don't know. I mean, I just know that it's very easy to secure permitting in Long Beach compared to LA. So they do a lot of that type of filming. They write that into the scenes a lot. Like, we got to do it down by the docks, industrial shipping and handling.
I love docks. A big part of any crime show.
Yeah.
The only docks we're going to be talking about today are the ones that you put your USB in. You know what I'm saying? Our guest today is legendary British DJ, BBC Radio 1, Benji B. Benji B. You probably know him from his work on BBC Radio 1. He was also the musical director of Celine under Phoebe Philo. He's a musical director of Louis Vuitton with big homie Virgil Abloh. You may have heard of him, Jason.
I knew who Benji B was before I knew who Virgil was.
Damn, that's fucked up, bro. That's crazy.
Yeah. Take a little glimpse into my fucked up life.
My favorite part about Benji B is, there's many favorite parts, but I was checking out his Wikipedia just to take a glimpse, and his personal life tab says, as of 2015, Benji B has a record collection of 15,000 to 20,000 records. That's his personal life, which is that's cool.
I'm curious to see how many of those records he was given versus paid for.
I bet he paid for a lot of them. I feel like he's a real Discogs daddy. But let's find out.
He supports the arts as well as probably a football club, and we'll find out what all of those things are right after the break.
All right, now we wait for him to join, I guess.
And now we wait.
Where are you coming to us live from? Is this the lab here? Is this the home lab?
This is my lab. This is not even my home. This is my studio.
What time is it over there, if you don't mind me asking?
It's only 8 o'clock.
So typically on a normal basis, you're at your house and then you'd ride your bike over to the studio and do whatever it is that you need to do work wise.
Yeah. If I'm in London, I'm generally here. Yeah.
Do you live with other people?
Yeah, I live with my girlfriend. Yeah. Ever since from day one of lockdown, I never stopped coming in here. And I'm blessed to have had this place. I would have gone mad without it, to be honest. So every day it's only about 15 minutes for me to get here. So I come to my studio, and this is where I do my radio show from, because no one's been inside the BBC building for like over a year now. So I've been doing it on this microphone that you're looking at. There's a whole DJ setup over there, and there's a sort of studio setup over here, and so it's like I basically I replicated the BBC studios in here, like a similar compressor, like the same mics.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I got the Studer desk over there, as you can see, which is like a mini version of like the big Star Trek desk they have in the main studio. So, I'm doing my show for real from here, like as if I was doing
There's a BBC, there's a Radio 1, a 2 or 3. So is this more like an 11 or a 12 at your home studio?
Yeah. What are we looking at?
I don't think I'm at that stage yet.
Well, I mean, does it change the process of the actual show, or do you just have an engineer come in, or
no, I'm doing it all myself. So I guess that's the thing that's different, is that normally when I'm in the studio at Radio 1, I'm with people, and for the last year I've been doing it on my own, which is obviously like a bit of a solitary experience. But no, the process is exactly the same. Listening to tunes is the same. My taste hasn't changed. Do you know what I mean? Like the approach is the same. So nothing.
I want to make
it. Really.
I want to make it clear to all the listeners. COVID did not change my musical taste. I just want to make it very clear that's not one of the.
It's possible.
It definitely changed a lot of people's musical tastes, though. I think a lot more people went inward instead of outward, and the desire to hear club bangers definitely decreased, at least in my personal life. I don't know about yours, Benj.
It's funny, I haven't heard someone call me Benj for a while. It's
usually we'll develop a bad nickname and people either love it or hate it off the bat.
No. It's just, I mean, we just met, so but
actually, Benji, we have met before, Benji.
Where did we meet?
I met you in.
I recognize you. Yeah. Hello.
You may know him as Them Jeans.
We met in Miami a couple times, probably through
sure.
Dizza and all those guys.
Yeah, for sure. Peach Fuzz crew. Shout out to them. Shout out to everyone listening in Miami. Actually, I love Miami.
So do I. I've been dying to head back there.
We do too.
That's where the party's at right now, from what I hear. Like the rest of the world's in a pandemic, and they're all like, "Oh, Carbone just opened. We should go."
That's kind of how Miami's always been, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, of course.
I mean. So you guys just opened back up though, like a week ago, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, but not properly though. Like we just opened, you're allowed to now eat outside. So there's lots of optimistic British people like shivering in the streets, trying to eat trying to make the best of drinking a pint in the street. Although I have to say that this week the weather just turned, so it's going to be all right. But apparently from June 21st, apparently it's all going back, like clubs, restaurants, everything. So we'll see. Where are you? You in LA?
Yeah, we're both in LA, but I've been in New York, and New York feels pretty good, honestly. Like, because the weather changed, same thing, and like it just feels better.
Yeah, I think people's moods are starting to lift.
Oh, 100%. Have you hit the pub though? Did you brave it like the rest of your countrymen, or are you good?
No, I haven't actually. I went to a restaurant for the first time since December on Saturday, and that was a blessing. I was happy to go there. No, I haven't actually been to a pub yet.
Are you a pub guy? I don't know if you seem like a big pub guy.
Not really. No, I mean, like in this country, you're sort of either a pub guy or a club guy, and you can guess where I spent most of my time. Mm-hmm. But then again, having a drink outside, it's good. It's a good social vibe. I definitely am not going out on June 21st.
No.
June 21st in the United Kingdom, that's going to be like ambulances lining the streets.
No, I think you're right. Do you feel under-socialized, though?
No, I mean, we all feel way under-socialized. Like, I haven't seen anyone for like a year. I haven't been traveling, Bear in mind that my life used to basically be like...
Yeah.
It wouldn't be unusual to take 4 flights in a week or whatever. It's like, I don't even mean that in some flash way. I mean it in a sort of gross way. Like, sort of really... It's like, really like... carbon footprint, like just everything. You know what I mean? Like body clock.
It does a number on the body.
Yeah, man. And so, I went to Paris for a week in January, but apart from that, I've been in England since April 2020, and that is without any question the longest time I've spent in this country since I was a kid. Probably.
Did you hit the countryside or anything? Get some fresh air, or were you like in the city?
Yeah, a couple of times. Yeah, a couple of times. But I'm in the city, so like I'm with the Londoners. Most of us like. Unless you've got like the country house or whatever, it's not that easy. Do you know what I mean? because there's no places. You can't go and stay at places. Everything's shut. But we did when things opened up. Yeah,
I hate to assume. I thought you might. I thought you might have a country house.
Bro.
That's why I was saying that.
I'm nearly there. Give me a few more years, and I'll have my like Range Rover and like Hunter wellies and shotgun and all of those British cliches.
Does the country life appeal to you though, or you? Because it doesn't appeal to me at all. Like everybody in New York gets a house upstate, and I'm like, that just seems boring to me.
No, it definitely appeals to me. I think it's an age thing, but it doesn't appeal to me as a full-time gig. It appeals to me as an option.
Sure,
You
sure.
know what I mean? So it appeals. I love nature. I love being in the green. And the older I get, the more, it's like the cliche of everyone, right? The more and more and more you need that. And also, I'm such an urban kid. Like, I grew up here.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's not like I grew up in the country and then moved to the city. And then, like, I've never known that. So it's like a life that I've been learning as I get older. It's not something that I grew up with it in me, like how to have one of those houses that has central heating off the fire or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And all that kind of stuff. Like, and that's a real thing, and I love it. So I actually have a house that I've always dreamt, like that I see this house all the time when I go to a certain place. And I'm like, one day I'll have like the Arga stove and the sort of fire and, that whole thing. But no, I'm a Londoner, so I've grown up here. It's what I know. I'm such a city kid. And to your point, the weird thing is what this has made me realize is that I probably know more about other cities around the world than I do about my own country when it comes to rural, like countryside stuff. So I know more about LA and New York and Paris and Rotterdam or Amsterdam than I do about towns in England. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One day, when you come to England next time, maybe I'll have the country pile.
I would like that. I've always wanted to go, and I've always just never had time when I'm there. And a buddy of mine just bought a house there.
No, it's beautiful. English countryside is beautiful. Like especially places like Somerset, Dorset, Cornwall. Like these places are beautiful. You've heard of Glastonbury, obviously, where Glastonbury happens is not far from Stonehenge, and that whole part of the UK there's something really magic about it. It's basically it's the real Lord of the Rings. It's that whole vibe. It's like
yes.
There's some ley line action going on there that's off the charts. It's like it's a special part of the world actually. So that's where I recommend you check out if you want to go to.
What is your country look like? What do you? I mean, what is the? How does it change?
The first thing to recognize about a country look for someone like me is that straight away I'm an imposter. So like,
okay,
like of course I fantasize about, because obviously we're like there's so much class issues in the UK. So obviously I fantasize about
I've read that
having the country pile with the, as I said, with the range and the wellies and the dogs and whatever. But it's just not a life that I've come from.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something I could get into. But no, I mean, my country look is practical, bro. You got to, I mean, it's always, I'm thinking, actually, no, when I went to the country a couple of weekends ago, I was like, it's sort of like ACG. It's that vibe. It's like Errolson Hugh ACG. Errolson Hugh era ACG tactical wear. That's my vibe.
You're going tactical. See, I think I would go a little more barber wellies. I feel like that is which way I would lean.
But that's what I'm saying. Unless they're absolutely battered, unless your wellies are battered, your barber's battered, you just look like a tourist.
It's a good point.
Good tip.
Or an imposter, because like that's what I would do. But you look like you're trying to do the look rather than really being the look. Do you know what I mean? Live it. But
yeah, I understand. So you would go. You have a closet full of Errolson era ACG, so you're good to go on that.
No, it's not just that. Like a little fleece and you're good. Dress practical. Like it's all about practical. And breathable fabrics.
Yeah, get some mesh Supreme.
Yeah.
Or when you're having a cast.
I think I would go maybe Arc'teryx probably. Even though that feels city.
There's a lot of that going. No, that's the original. There's a lot of that going on out there. Like there's in the countryside, there's definitely a lot of 60 and 70-year-olds wearing that and not realizing that it's actually
very cool.
Of the time sort of thing.
That's what kids are wearing while they're tagging freeway bridges and smoking speed.
Something like that.
Benji, do you come from a graffiti background? I feel like you must have dabbled at some point.
I don't really. I'm more of a of an admirer. Like everyone of my age, I probably grew up, tagging every school book and dreaming of having a tag and tagging everything in sight in your possession. But no, I never wrote. I was never up in London. You know what I mean? I was like always looking at the people that were up, and like always being on trains. Especially my dad used to live in South London, and I'd get the train to his on the Network Southeast every weekend. And there were always, when the train pulled out of like London Bridge particularly, and there was a couple of stations where there was like people were legendary, and you'd see all of that, and you'd see different people up in different parts of town and stuff. So I used to follow it, not even like a scene, just like an observer.
You need to check on your cat or your dog back there?
Yeah. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, go ahead. Don't worry.
When did you go to New York for the first time?
Maybe 97.
You take the Concorde from London to New York, and then and what are we doing? Are we there to DJ? Are we there to hang out? What's the reason for the trip?
He's there to find Wu-Tang.
You gotta understand, like my generation, New York was Mecca.
Yeah, of course.
Like Mecca of so many things, and also beyond that, like a sister city. I think that the city that you're in right now, you're talking to me from, I've grown to love and I've grown to understand and explore. But you can't just land there and know it. The first time I went to the West Coast, I felt like an alien. Do you know what I mean? Because it's so unfamiliar and different. But if you're from London, in that era, going to New York, obviously you go with respect for the fact that it is a very different place. But there's a lot of similarities in terms of energy. To me, it was love at first sight with me in New York. I had a love affair that still goes on now. But obviously in that period, I was lucky to see what New Yorkers would probably say the end of the window, but like it was still New York. You know what I mean?
Everyone has their end of the window, depending on how old you are.
Yeah. But everyone has their version of it, right? Everyone has their version of it. And my version of it was like that 90s New York thing, being able to go there and go to places like Vinyl to see Body and Soul, Joe Clazell, Danny Krivit, Francois Kevorkian, going to Roots, Louis Vega, going to be able to go and see Kenny Dope. My first ever gig was for Bobito at APT. Bobito, I got to say shout out to Bob because he gave me my first ever gig in New York. And then playing for the Giant Step parties there. I used to, kind of live at APT basically and DJ there a lot. So that era was very special.
Yeah, and you'll be out here in LA for Coachella, not this year, but next year. You said you felt like a bit of an alien when you first started coming out to LA.
No, I'm talking a long time ago. I'm talking like 20 years ago, but obviously...
How has that changed over time?
Well, the city's just radically different. The DNA of the city's the same, obviously. But LA is like, you're as likely to run into New Yorkers, Londoners, Berliners, whoever in LA. It's an international hub, culturally speaking. And musically speaking, obviously it's like where so many of the best players in the world are doing sessions every day. And it's where magic can happen in sessions because you'll be at a studio and then it'll be like someone will just pull up. In London and New York, it's more like, oh, this is scheduled, this is the producer, this is what's happening. In LA, it's just amazing how
anyone could rock up.
Yeah, I love that. I love LA so much for that. I love LA full stop, actually. I always have an amazing time there. It's just, LA is a long form place. London and New York are quick places. Like you could go to New York for a weekend. Going to LA for a weekend you're not going to get much done. You know what I mean? You need longer there, right?
You do.
It's not enough. No, I would agree.
But I love LA so much, man. I mean, like I my whole 20s I was like flirting with moving to New York. And then, around 2013, 14, 15, I was, pretty close to thinking about moving to where you're at now.
Really?
Yeah. It's been a very close thing, but it's basically been based around the radio, being here for the radio. And now I feel like you can do the radio from remotely and stuff, but that wasn't the case before.
Well, you don't feel like it. You've been living proof that you could do it remotely for the last year.
Exactly.
Which I guess it's exciting and scary. Well, when so around that time when you were starting to flirt with the idea of maybe living in LA, that was like when like the LA big music festival rave, electro explosion thing was going on here. What did like the real, I consider you to be like a very well respected music head. What did you think of the LA world when you first started seeing it blow up out here? Because I don't think that, whenever I'd bring European DJs out, it was just kind of like, what the fuck is going on here, bro? Like, this is not how you do it.
No, I think there was a lot of really beautiful energy about it, but how I would describe it is like non-integrated, as in the fact that there were loads of scenes that I would appreciate on their own, like the downtown party scene that was happening at the time, the sort of semi-legal warehouse scene that was going on, and then obviously you've got West Hollywood and people that go to like Bar Marmont, and then you've got people that go to things downtown, and then you've got people, I mean, I don't need to tell you, but then it was even more separate. So the people that I knew that would go to a certain scene of things wouldn't go to the other thing.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and so that's what I felt like. I felt like it was it was cool. I mean, I played some of those things. They were great.
Yeah, I mean, I guess more so like when you come, like if you did like a hard festival or like, one of those big music festivals.
Hard. That's different,
okay.
Man. That's like EDM. that's like EDM Borders.
Yeah.
Maybe not even Borders,
No, that's not Borders. That's full in.
Yeah.
That's jumping into the deep end.
No, I thought you were talking about like the warehouse parties in LA at that time and stuff like that.
I'm not talking about getting a glass of champagne with Tomas at Chateau. I'm talking about the real shit.
No, I know. I thought you were talking about like the downtown, like the Lift and those parties that I was doing at the time, which were cool.
Which is cool.
No, the EDM explosion in America, that was a completely different thing. That's not what I'm talking about. That's like, but I was really, really grateful for going to that particular hard fest because when you have an idea of what you think something's going to be like, and then it's like 100 million times to the power of that. I mean, when I played Hardfest for the first time, like, first of all, big up the people that do it because the hospitality is amazing. They were all very gracious and kind and really cool. And
big up, Gary.
I was DJing in an air hangar to people that definitely didn't know what I do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And obviously that's like a really interesting challenge because at a festival like that, people go to it's more like shows. They're not going to hear DJs. So
they're going to go watch DJs, not listen to them.
Yeah. When I finished, I thought I was basically, a friend of mine was there, right? And he was like, "Oh, do you want to go to the main stage?" And I was like, "Oh, I thought this was the main stage." And then he was like, "No." He was like, "No. That's because I thought all of these air hangars were sort of the same size, right?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah." And no, they were all there. You've been there, I'm sure. But then he goes, "No. The main stage is here." So we walked for like 10 minutes, and then it's like a baseball stadium, And I watched these kids, and when I say kids, I don't mean it as in the kids. I mean literally kids. Basically, the outfits that day were, if you're a girl, like as a generalization, the trend at that time, was basically like, if you're a girl, you're wearing like a bikini, but with like lingerie. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like a bikini, but like with hold up stockings or something.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That kind of thing,
Yeah.
or like that tape, like reflective tape on the nipples, or. That
I have no idea what you're talking about, Benji. No idea what you're talking about, but carry on.
No. It was like, I was like, what is, kind of but in a kind of circusy way.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
It was like a kind of, it wasn't.
It was a twisted carnival.
Yeah. That kind of vibe. Thank you. Cirque du Soleil or something, right?
And the more reflective the tape, the less likely they're going to know who Benji B is, probably.
No, but I mean, and then the boys.
Yeah.
Right, the outfits for the boys was basically no top, but with a GoPro stuck to their chest. Right, literally.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember. Actually, I can't remember who's playing, but I'm not going to say. And I remember watching it, and I'm saying all of this like as an observer, not in any judgment whatsoever. Like I'm just telling you what I saw. Right, it's like, and it was a great epiphany for me. Because it made me really at peace with the whole thing. Because in one moment, I suddenly realized that the problem that we all have, when I say we, is like DJs that have grown up in clubs or people that think, basically, I'm just going to say this. The epiphany that I had was realizing that not a single one of the people, of these like 10,000 people or however many it was, had ever been to a nightclub. And I think that there's something as well. I think that you could get in there at 18. I think
18 and up parties and then 21 and up parties, and there's a big difference between the two.
Yeah, which basically means that in the States, if you're 18, you haven't been to a club because you have to be 21, right? So it's like, so when I saw these guys DJing and they're just waiting for the drop, and they go crazy and they film and then they just get bored and wait for the next one.
Mm-hmm.
It was great for me because I suddenly understood that actually the difficulty people have is they're like, oh, but this isn't DJing, or this isn't like in the lineage of DJ culture, and oh, look how badly it's gone wrong. You know, this lineage that we respect so much, whether it be Levan or Ron Hardy or Frankie or on the other side like Flash or Herc or Grand Wizard Theodore, whoever, like these masters that we uphold as the pioneers of the culture that we belong to. It's like what's going on there is nothing to do with that. You know what I mean? It's to do with something else, and that thing is totally fine.
Yeah.
And that was like a magic epiphany. It's like no one here needs to know who Larry Heard is, and it doesn't matter. It's like that's for a different world and a different scene. This is about like a performance where it's the same thing as going to see your favorite artist on stage, and it's not about DJing or club culture. And I'm totally at peace with that. And it was a great experience. So big up Hard Festival.
Those original hip-hop DJs you were just naming, I'm sure when 50 Cent or Jay-Z or Eminem first came out, that generation is like, what the fuck is this? And now so much time has passed that we are of that age of like, what are these damn triple X Tentaciones doing?
No, you know what? I don't totally agree because I don't have, I mean, you're right. Of course you're right. But I don't have that feeling about, the reason I'm saying that with a degree of wonderment is because I don't have that gene in me. I don't have that gene in me of like, oh, these 16-year-old DJs don't know what they're doing. I'm the opposite. I'm like, show me where the 16-year-old DJs are. That's who I want to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I'm that school. I'm not like, oh, they don't make them like they used to. My radio show is actually about just playing 100% new music pretty much, with a couple of foundation things thrown in. So I don't go to things with that attitude ever, but I found the extreme EDM thing in America is a different thing. That's just something fascinating to watch as a bubble and as a business. And, I just meant that I, like a lot of people, struggle to find the line between the sort of like lineage of like club music and what that is basically. And as soon as you surrender to the fact that it's not necessarily
there
connected,
even
though they're using CDJs and whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's like
there's still drums happening. Yeah, it's like watching, some old timey wrestling versus WWF. They're doing the same thing, but they're completely different.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like detach yourself from the snobbery around it. Like I'm not being, it's not snobby. I don't feel snobbish about it at all. It's just interesting to me to observe how I can fit into that thing. Because you asked me like, what was it like DJing? And the answer is fucking weird. Do you know what I mean? Because it was like, because I was doing my thing. Because I haven't got a different setting. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to do my thing regardless, right?
Right.
So, and it was cool that they had me on to do that, and watching how people interacted with it, and I liked it. But what a wild time! I mean, I'd love to hear your perspective on that time, because obviously things like, what's that mad festival that I would love to go to just to be a fly on the wall? The one that's like the EDC or whatever.
Yeah, EDC.
Oh yeah,
yeah. That looks
in Vegas.
Bonkers.
Same vibe.
Yeah,
but I mean, I had the same experience as you, even though I'm from LA and I know all those people, and I would play some of the similar music, but I would have a similar situation where I'd be playing on a smaller stage or an earlier time of the day, and it would be a bunch of people who are like, everyone's nice and dancing and stuff like that, but nobody is, everyone's kind of looking over their shoulder like, all right, when's the real shit going to go on? And it is hard to get, like a proper party going at 2 p.m.
Yeah, that's probably when I was playing. Yeah. Anyway, I've got some very good friends in the city where you live. In fact, a lot of my friends moved there. Half of my friends are there.
Really?
So yeah, I love LA, man. It's just too comfy. Like it's too comfy. Do you know what I mean?
How do you do with the sun, Benji?
What are you trying to imply?
I'm just asking. The British aren't known for sun worshiping the way that Californians are. So
we definitely worship the sun. We just don't get any of it.
Mm-hmm. I understand.
We're like, you want to talk about worshiping the sun? I think it was like, I was walking around yesterday with a fleece on, and someone had shorts and a t-shirt and flip flops. It's like English people are so optimistic about the slightest bit of sun. People have got barbecues out and they're shivering, Yeah, we will do this. But
it's not so bad.
I'm going to try and change these headphones because this is doing Like I can actually, what it's like. You know what it's like when you can't really concentrate because you can either hear yourself. When I was listening to myself talk, then it was like,
oh yeah, that's
through the
not
headphone.
great. That's not great.
So you feel like you just went and took a piss during the middle of a 4-hour set, and you came back and you're like, all right, I can do another 8.
That is exactly how I feel. I actually feel one stage even better than that. I feel like basically you realize that the set hadn't started yet.
Oh.
Like you were kind of off. You were a bit off because you needed to go toilet, and then you put on a really long Fela Kuti record, and you were like, okay, this has got at least 13 minutes left on it. I'm gonna go through the crowd, go to the bathroom, and then you come back and you're like, right, okay, reset.
I know what I needed to do. The guy in the stall next to me gave me a bump. I'm ready to go.
Speak for yourself.
I am speaking for myself. I mean, I guess as a national,
not really over here, but yeah. But I mean, whatever your equivalent of that is, do your thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jason. Some people just splash water on their face and give themselves a little pep talk in the mirror and just run back out there. You know what I mean?
More like they think, shit, the record's running out. I better run back.
I better hurry. I wanted to ask you about being a.
What's the name of the podcast, by the way?
It's called How Long Gone.
How Long Gone? And what's the central theme of the podcast? You haven't even given me like the whole spiel, intro, shit, nothing.
There isn't really one.
There's no.
So basically,
central theme.
we do 3 episodes a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then we have a music show on Spotify on Saturdays where we listen to new music and talk about it, just similar to how you do it.
Wait a second, you do 3 podcasts a week?
3 a week, yeah.
That's right.
That's cool.
We've been doing it for a little bit over a year, and we're on episode 173. You will be.
Congratulations, that's very cool. I'm going to listen to.
Thank you.
If you had to pick like a beginner's guide where you're like, okay, here are the 3 essential episodes to listen to, either because they were like either because they sum up the vibe of what you're doing, or because they were like vintage. Which ones do I go to?
I think the episode with Phoebe Bridgers is a really popular one that kind of sums up our energy on it pretty well.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know Jacques Green, the DJ. He had a really good episode recently.
Jacques Green?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I love him.
Great
man.
guy.
I did a gig
great.
in obviously he's from Montreal, but I did a gig in Toronto, and he turned up like with. Smuggled in all this like rare natural wine and just came and just he kind of like I was playing like a carnival set in Toronto, and he basically just like sommeliered the DJ booth.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
that is nice. Yeah, Jacques was good. Yeah, I mean those are 2 good ones. Lunas was good. Jeremy O'Harris was good.
Yeah, Lunas was actually quite good.
I love Lunas.
Yeah, Lunas really blew our minds. That man he's got a lot of interests. You know what I mean? He's got a lot of hobbies.
Lunas has got beautiful energy. A lot of time for that guy.
We talk to a lot of people who are like writers, people in the fashion world. The musicians are actually pretty low on the.
We know our place.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are good for.
We know our place in the cultural pecking order. Don't worry.
No.
No, I'm just kidding. So this one, obviously, now that we've started properly, you can cut out everything we just did. We'll start now, and this will definitely be like another vintage one for sure, right?
Oh yeah.
Unfortunately, that's not how it works. But sure, yeah. I mean, whatever you want.
We can do a combination of both old world and new world. Not to have a wine reference, but they'll be before death and after, before Christ, after death.
Chef TJ will be able to cut it up in the lab and produce something that everyone will want to listen to. You know what I mean? Don't fear. You're in good hands. Well, I really wanted to ask you though about the being a musical director in fashion and what that means, because I think that's like a thing people see, but they might not understand what you're actually doing. And I know that you did it at Celine, and now you do it with Virgil at Louis Vuitton. So I think that if you could explain what that actually entails, that would really be enlightening to people.
Oh man, well I think the honest truth is that it probably entails something unique in every different situation. I know that's not the simple answer you were hoping for, but that's the truth. It's like it obviously is going to change radically depending on the context of where you are and who you're working with. For me, it's always about the connection with the individual, that is to say the creative director. So it's like if you look at it with the equivalent of football, for example, or soccer, as you might say.
How dare you?
Don't come for us.
Yeah. I mean, just fact. It's like the same thing. It's like connecting with a manager. rather than necessarily the club. You know, it's like I'm sort of I'm always connecting with the creative director somewhere. It's not usually the company that's employing me. It's usually the individual to come and work with them. A bit like you know, with what you're doing.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And so
you're not talking to the owner of Louis Vuitton every day. You're talking to Virgil.
Yeah. So it's like I'm more in the creative sort of sphere, obviously, it being music. And I think, you know, my job is really just to be able to hear what it should sound like based on an infinite number of factors. You know? Obviously, those factors being including, most importantly, collection, theme, reference, context, set, date, month of the year, season, cast, individuals, stuff that we're into at the time, moments in kind of like cultural life that we're living, you know. It's sort of like an indescribable cocktail of things that feed into this pot that ends up as a soundtrack, you know. And my work with different people has varied, you know. For the most part, it's been pre-recorded music that I've put together either as a soundscape or sound design, or even sometimes like a little DJ set. Whereas the work that I do with Louis Vuitton men's is always live. So we're usually dealing with you know, that's our kind of manifesto for these shows, is that it's always live music, bespoke, done for the shows. And so far, you know, we've been blessed to work with everyone from, you know, Miss Lauryn Hill through to Bad Bad Not Good, through to Cybertron, you know, managing to get my heroes on the set, you know, Juan Atkins, all the way through to working with, you know, some of the best players in London, through to more recently with Saul Williams and Yassine. So,
well, you just listed off 20 different, you know, variables or things to consider when you're putting a soundscape together or whatever.
Yeah.
Is that a process where you just kind of look at it and absorb it all, and then things just start coming to you, or do you have like more of an actual strategy of like how the whole thing is shaped out? Do you have a process, or is it just an epiphany that comes to you?
Let's say if someone's designing a couch or a t-shirt or an album cover, they might start with a mood board with loads of things pinned to the wall as inspiration. They might not be sampling directly from those things, but they might, you know, like it's kind of the same with music. It's almost like ideas get narrowed down and narrowed down and narrowed down, and sometimes the idea that you end up with is not even the thing that you use, but it's the thing that sends you down the right road to find the right thing. You know, so it's like a process. It's a real process, and often the jump off point can be to do with the set or the environment. It's hard to explain it. I mean, the blessing about working at Louis Vuitton Men's is the fact that Virgil is as much of a music fan as I am. I love working with people that are fluid enough to be able to do that, as in to get out of the way of the best idea. Those are the people I love the most, no matter what their field. Doesn't matter what their creative field is. It doesn't matter. It's like I practice like non-attachment to ideas in everything that I do. And it's really hard sometimes, creatively speaking, because whether you're emotionally invested in an idea or you've time invested in an idea or you think it's a good idea or whatever, but actually when you work at the highest level on anything, whether it be a great album or a great movie or whatever it might be, you have to like have non-attachment to every idea that got you to the right idea. Even if you're ripping something up and starting again, it was a crucial component to getting to where you end up, you know? And so, like, you have to be willing to do that a lot of the time. And obviously, then there's the technical part, which is you're pinning something to an ever-moving target. So I might make a piece of music that's 14 minutes, and then suddenly the show is actually 9.5 minutes, you know, and you've lost two songs or whatever it might be, or it might work the other way around. You know, we love it. Great.
But you've got the experience of the years of being in the club DJing, where you know anything that could go wrong goes wrong.
Man.
So when those moments happen to you now in this life, you don't freak out, you don't panic.
I try and tell everyone all the time, man. It's all DJing.
Yeah,
like that's what it all is. It's like whether it's the radio, whether it's music for film, TV, fashion, curating something, it's doing a playlist. It's all DJing. It's all understanding context, like when to play the record, or like why something should be played at a certain time and why it would sound terrible at another time. How to read the room, you know, all of that stuff. It's like, it's DJing. It's the university of DJ, basically.
Yeah, and as much of a bad rap that as DJs get, kind of being a laughing stock for a lot of jokes, there's a lot of amazing life.
Well, we definitely deserve that too.
We do, yeah, we do to a certain extent, but it's also important to have the gratitude of like a lot of real life lessons were taught to us. Luckily, we were being paid to learn those lessons while getting, hammered off of Red Bull and vodkas or whatever. But, you learn a lot about...
Speak for yourself.
You learn a lot about people and how they interact and, emotion and moments and timing that you simply cannot learn without that experience.
No, absolutely. I mean, I saw this photo, the Blue Note in London, which was a club I went to a lot when I was a kid, probably around that same time that I first went to New York. And in that exact era of my life, a lot of my friends went off to university, and then I went to that university, I went to that university of studying like nightlife. And I think that I understand why a lot of people think nightclubs, because their reference of nightclubs is maybe sitting in a corner, behind a velvet rope and having bottles brought to you in a club that's playing like top 40 records. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's just not what my experience was. You know what I mean? So I think that I understand when people say, oh, wow, you devoted your life to nightlife. It wasn't that for me. My thing was, it was about music. It was about like the process of discovery with music was from going to clubs when I was a kid. I've just done a compilation that's basically about that. It's about like celebrating what clubs do and how clubs can have their own anthems, I mean, it's relevant to what we're talking about. This is not like a ham-fisted plug. This is not like the QVC section. But like, no, but it's relevant to what we're talking about, because like all good residencies generate their own sort of mini scene, right? And they generate their own classics that the regulars like to hear.
Sure.
And
any good club.
Sometimes in a good club, yeah. And so in 2007, I started my residency in London. It's called Deviation. Actually, we had a residency at Output in New York as well later on. I
remember that.
And we did a couple in Berlin and Paris. But basically, we did it every month in London for 10 years straight. And I mean, we've been doing them sort of every few months, like in the last 3 years. And then obviously, what happened in the last year. But, the idea of a club residency is what I grew up on, right? And this is by no means... like one of my friends, A-Side, who lives in LA, always says that Sopranos line, "Remember when" is the lowest form of conversation, and so
which has been replaced by, are you watching anything on Netflix now?
Yeah, I don't want to be the "remember when" guy, because I generally like to look forward, but it is important to recognize with what you're talking about that a sort of like the formative part of my education was going to people's residencies, right? So a residency is obviously when you travel the world DJing, but you always come back to play at your club. So, for example, that would, for a period before I was old enough to go out, before my time would have obviously be, the most famous would be something like Levan at the Paradise Garage, or Frankie Knuckles at wherever. I mean, like...
Calvin Harris at Hakkasan in Vegas, the list goes on.
No, but that is a residency.
Yeah, or like
no, for sure.
Or like David Guetta at Pacha once, the first Saturday of every month.
Yeah. I mean, you might mock it, but that is a residency.
No.
Oh, for sure. No. We're just defining the term.
It was a mock and a praise. I love the music of Calvin. Don't worry.
Those, there is something to be said for that, like holding down a residency, whatever level it is, whatever genre it is, and like so the idea that if I was in New York, I knew I'd be able to go to Vinyl on a Sunday. That idea of being able to hold down a monthly or weekly club night where you're sort of sharpening your own toolbox, because that's the testing ground where you're playing the new stuff, the stuff that you've been listening to during the week. In my case, some of the stuff I was playing on the radio. And so I always wanted to have a residency. And so in 2007, I started one. I called it Deviation, and it rapidly had its own sort of like almost musical DNA, its own musical sort of like identity. It was almost like a genre in a way, but that genre spanned so many different genres. So yeah, so you can listen to it on Spotify now. It's called Deviation Classics, and some of the tunes might be really abstract to you because they might be like B-sides, 12 inches, album cuts, whatever, but they were big in the club, right? And I wanted to make it all independent music and all music that came out in the lifespan of the club, apart from the two sort of crate digger tunes which are at the end. But that's also part of the DJ thing, is knowing when it's the right moment to like revive a tune, when it's the right moment to step off a tune, like when a tune's been too rinsed and you've got to give it a rest for a bit. You know, it's like you sort of that's part of the culture of it. Anyway, Deviation Classics, go check it out. It's available on Bandcamp. And
what just quickly, just this is a little aside, but I like to ask all of our British guests this question. But are Oasis or Blur?
Yes, we like tea. Yes, the weather's shit, and football is football.
Who do you support, really quick?
Well, my entire life I've supported a team called Arsenal up until today.
I heard about this news. This big news.
Oh, they're
today
joining
that,
the Super Federation.
The Super.
Yeah, man, it's a really you're talking to me on a very, very deep day. But it's like it's deep.
Bad day to be a Gunner.
It's a bad day to be a football fan.
My condolences.
You know, because the thing is about Arsenal is it's a bit like there's a similarity, right, with clubs like Manchester United and Liverpool, these clubs that have this incredible history in the game. You know, like when you put aside rivalries and competition, you know, there's a great deal of respect for the history of the clubs that I just mentioned, just like people respect Real or Barca or Bayern.
Yeah, whether you're like the Rolling Stones or Zeppelin, whatever, you're going to respect them.
Yeah, and today, you know how you always think, oh yeah, our club's like got class, you know, they would never do such and such, and it's like, actually, you know what, it's a new day. They've all got like billionaire owners that don't really give a shit about the fans.
Yes.
And so I think, I don't know, well, let's not get into it on the podcast, but the news that broke today was that basically this Super League is forming, which is a closed, non-competition. Yes. It's basically like turning it into like the Harlem Globetrotters show game. Do you know what I mean? Or like...
Yeah, totally. If it's non-competition, what's the point?
Yeah, everyone
like,
loves to watch the Harlem Globetrotters. It's not that the Globetrotters are not fun to watch. It's like everyone wants to watch like the best thing or skills or whatever. I mean, maybe that's a really bad example, but I'm just saying, like,
it's a good
what's a better American sports analogy, like where you're going to watch? I know what it is. It's basically like imagine that the All-Star game was every weekend.
It's going to be really amazing for the first month.
It's no longer special. Yeah, exactly. It's like this incredible top level, but non-competitive because it's basically just a money thing.
It's an exhibition.
Yeah. So yeah, football's in a bad place today. Anyway,
you've dodged my question now and brought it to sports. My question was Oasis or Blur.
You know what? The realist talk, man, is like this is really not a question dodge on any level. But I was just never into either of those bands.
Yeah.
Oh my god, this is unfucking believable. This is unbelievable. I can't believe. I'm so disappointed.
Like, now I like them. Now I've grown up to understand. Like, not that I didn't understand. What's the better word?
Appreciate.
Like I've matured.
Appreciate.
I've matured into appreciating like the incredible writing of Noel. You know, like
yes,
and the incredible, just everything about it. I mean, they're one of the greatest rock bands.
Same thing happened
in
to
history.
me.
But in the 90s, we were listening to like drum and bass and Wu-Tang. We weren't really listening to Britpop. My taste, like I wasn't into it. But I think if I had to pick the spirit of Oasis,
yes,
just the sort of dirty under the nail rock and roll superstar, like I'm going for it. There's something about that. And obviously the more documentaries you watch and everything, it's like there's something about that is totally irresistible. You know, in terms of
agreed.
We're going to be the biggest rock band in the world, and then they were, you know, and then,
I'm an Oasis supporter, so that's good to hear.
Nebworth was like, you know, like 250,000 people in England. You know, it's nuts. 2 days in a row, was it, or was it 1 day? I can't remember.
No, it was 2 days. There was some. I read some crazy stat where it was like a percentage of the residents of Britain were there. It was that many people, which is fucked up. Now, when you think about it like that, it's like that's absolutely insane.
Every third person in London was there.
Yeah, it's literally like that.
I mean, basically, I appreciate what both bands do. Like, obviously, songs like Song 2 by Blur is played at every wedding and every festival. And likewise, you know, Wonderwall. I mean, it's just at the time, like, culturally, that wasn't really my...
Yeah, sure. No, I get it.
World. So therefore, but like my cousin, for example, my cousin Dominique, I remember she lives in north of England. At that time, she lived in Bradford. She didn't live in Manchester, but I remember going up to her bedroom and it being like every Oasis poster. You know, like it's, I understand the levels. because I was here. But
That's why I asked, because I know you're the right age too, where like you were really living through it.
What are you trying to imply with that? I don't.
I'm not saying Noel and Liam are your peers. I'm just saying you were around when it was
They're
at its
definitely
height.
older than me, bro.
I know that's what I'm saying.
Your musical brain had developed enough to be able to speak on it.
I'm totally kidding. I'm absolutely the right age. Yeah, I mean, basically that whole Cool Britannia, Britpop 90s thing. Like our end of that was probably like Goldie. Or
for sure. Yeah, he's like the crossover. Yeah.
It wasn't really. So it's a cop out answer, but it's also the truth is that I've never, with all massive and due respect to the genius of both of those bands, there's never really a time where I'm just going to put it on a Sunday or something. You know what I mean? It's just not in my musical life like that.
That's exactly how I feel about drum and bass. So I can relate there.
That was an interesting sounding laugh there. I liked it.
Yeah, not mine. He's heard mine enough. Yeah. Benji, thank you for joining us. This has been a pleasure.
Wait, we're just getting started, man. Are you kidding me?
we don't do
first
these
half about EDM stuff. That's getting cut out. Come on. Like, give me some more questions. Oasis and Blur is your starter. Like, you've got me now. I'm stayed in my studio. I've turned the lights down. We've got the podcast going. We're finally recording it. Like, what are you doing? You've got me. Come on. Give me another Brit question you've always wanted to know. That digs deeper under the surface of Liam and no, I'm just kidding. You wrap it up if you want to wrap it up.
I need an Amy Winehouse story if you have one. I mean, my queen.
You know what's funny is I actually don't, because I never knew Amy. I didn't ever spend any time with Amy, but she basically was always down the road, and sometimes you'd see her in Camden. But I didn't know her personally. But like where I am right now, 3 minutes away from a mural of her on the street.
I mean, she's one of my favorites, and I could also, I guess we get into Lily Allen too, but we only have so much time.
Well, she's in the studio upstairs, so
we're big Lily Allen fans over here. I'm waiting for her return, so I feel like it's going to come. I feel like it's going to happen soon.
Who's the better DJ, Mark Ronson or Benji B?
Well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously Mark Ronson. I mean, he's like a scratch DJ.
No, I mean, I've seen both of you guys play. I definitely like watching you more than him.
Damn, Team Benji.
He should stick to the studio, not the CDJs. You know what I mean?
Oh man, I disagree, man. I've heard Mark kill it. Like first and foremost a DJ, and it goes back to the thing of saying it all comes from DJing, right? Mm-hmm. Like whether it be like exec producing something to know to get the right player or the right band in, or whether it be physically producing a song and playing the music yourself, or knowing which drum break to take, or knowing whatever. It all comes from that lens of DJing, and like that's why Mark's a genius at what he does, is because he's using all of those years of DJ experience where it wasn't he's from that era where it's like if you weren't bringing it, you were getting kicked off. And so I have the utmost respect for his DJ stripe.
How many times do you hit the cue button in between songs? Are you a cue button masher? I like to overly do it.
Definitely a cue button abuser for sure. I'm like, yeah, I can't imagine not having the cue button.
I know, right? It's fucked up.
It's essential. But you have to understand, like for going for years where like just knowing that when I press start, it's actually just going to hit one and start is amazing. Like just the cue button
never gets old.
You know what? But yeah, just to really alienate your listeners right now, the moment where they introduced that thing where you could hold the cue button and then press play and it would continue playing.
Oh yeah,
changed my whole world.
on the CDJ 100s. People are going to be like QAnon. What are you guys talking about?
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, it's CUE, like a pool cue.
You know what? You laugh, but like when in the sort of height of where I probably met you at Winter Music Conference or something, right? Mm-hmm. In the height of that, in the sort of mid 2000s, I used to get some funny looks, turning up with like CDs and playing on CDJs. And now it's just normal. Very normal.
Mm-hmm. I think CDs are making a comeback now. Cassettes had their time.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. The compilation I was just talking about. Like, basically, we released the pre-order for the record and the digital, which I assumed like, okay, people are gonna, buy this either as a collectible box set thing, or they're a vinyl thing, or they're gonna listen to it on Spotify or a streaming service, right? loads and loads of people said, "Where's the CD version?" So we did a CD version.
I like that.
So why do you think that is? I have a few theories myself, but
I think that in this, I can't say as a general thing, but I could say that in this particular instance, I think it's because it's like a physical keepsake for people that don't necessarily have a turntable or don't want to spend that much money, whatever. But it's like a small coffee table item that's got like a little booklet in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's something physical. It's like because the product is a sort of a keepsake product. It's a bit retrospective. It's a bit of a time capsule thing. Maybe people want something physical to
something you can put on the shelf for your Zoom wall behind you.
Yeah, for your Zoom wall.
But but if you have a cassette, it's a process to play a cassette. But you always have a friend who has a car with a CD player or something. It's not too hard to find that.
I mean, I think most people probably don't. They probably just like buy the CD and then listen to the stream or something.
That's what I'll be doing.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Do you keep a car in London, or are you just bicycle only?
Yeah, I do.
Or do you want to talk about the whip?
You know what? It's been a long.
What were we rocking with?
You know what? Let's not even go there because it's going to be too long. I'm going to be speaking about it for hours. It's too. You don't want to talk about cars. Yeah.
He's rebuilt the G-Wagon by hand, so it's a little bit of it's been a process.
No, man. If I was in LA, I could do a G-Wagon, but a G-Wagon in London is just a little bit much.
No, it's a little bit much everywhere.
I definitely wouldn't say no though.
I think unless you live in Dubai, it's a little bit much everywhere in the world, I think.
No, my friend drives one in Paris, and it's just a vibe. It's like the way he whips it. It's just like he just it's great. It depends on the person and the setting and how you drive, but yeah, I know what you mean though. I just borrowed a Porsche Taycan. I had to give it back. That was a sad day.
How'd you like it?
It's brand new.
It was incredible. They gave it to me for 3 weeks.
What's the hashtag for that? If you want to shout it out on the pod.
What's that?
I said.
What's the hashtag that you had to use?
No, I did. That's the thing. I didn't. That's not why I'm saying it. There's no payment. I am not being paid.
I know.
It's not a paid partnership at this point.
My influencer brain just goes there. I'm sorry. Mr. Porsche, if you're listening, we're also willing to try out the all-new 2021 Porsche Taycan.
Yeah. We're happy to do that. FCC, if you're listening, we will disclose if we do get paid for it. Just FYI.
But the guy that came to pick it up, came and picked it up on one of those mad trucks that carries like 8 cars, and and he came to pick it up, and he was like, "Oh, you're lucky," because it was the same guy that dropped it off. I said, "Why is that?" And he said, "Oh, normally they only give these out for like 48 hours or a day, And then so I didn't realize, but I'd had it for 4 weeks. But it was like being in a boat in London. It was like cruising around. Like when you're in most cars, because they just made it 20 miles an hour most of London now. Which is just, as you can well imagine, makes you feel like you're going nowhere. If you actually really do drive at 20 miles an hour, it's just mad slow. It's so slow.
Even if you have a shit car, I mean, let alone a Porsche.
That's kind of what I'm saying, is that in this car, like in every other car, it's just so frustrating if there's speed cameras and you're actually driving at 20 miles an hour. In this car, I was just like, you know how like when they say about like good hi-fis, it's not, or PA systems, or a mad like a concert PA. It's not really about what it sounds like when it's at the loudest. It's actually what it sounds like when it goes mad quiet. And it's sort of the same thing with this car. It's like driving it at 20 miles an hour was just as pleasurable as taking it on the motorway and sort of like flooring. Well, not quite as pleasurable, but it was like it was cool.
The dynamic range.
Although trust me, when I got out on the motorway the first night I had this gig in a forest down in south in Sussex. Maria Farzana did this radio station in the middle of in the forest. It was amazing. And so I said to Porsche, "Can I have it for that day so I can drive down in this car?" And so the guy gave me the keys, and I learned how to drive it by driving on a, what do you call it? Freeway, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. What do you call it?
Highway or freeway? Motorway?
No, it was freeway, yeah. And on the way back, it was like, I don't know, midnight, 1 a.m, and it was lockdown, right? So it was like nothing.
Dead,
like,
yeah.
No, like you see one car every half an hour, that kind of vibe, right?
Hopefully you put a little burial on the stereo for a night like that.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Alone in the Woods, Volume 4.
It was definitely a burial moment for sure. And
life's crazy, innit?
And yeah, they I put it in Sport Plus mode or whatever, and just floored it, and it was. Let me just put it this way: it has a G-force counter on the dash. It was definitely the closest I've felt to like what astronauts feel like, Yeah, so that was fun. That was a good car experience.
You had to readjust the time on the Audemars after those G-forces. Knocked you a few minutes back.
Why is the AP? Damn, what?
But anyway, I've just gone through like this whole thing this last year of being like, I don't know which car to get, because I was leasing cars, right, for like 3 years at a time, 4 years at a time. I was in that classic mode of like, I'm going to get a vintage, I'm going to get like the 98 SL, or I'm going to get the whatever, right? I went down that rabbit hole quite a few times in life, right? This time I was like, I'm going to do it. And then they introduced this thing in London called the ULEZ, which is like the ultra low emission zone, which basically means that to own a car pre-2003, I think, you basically have to pay £15 a day just to have it, 365 days a year. So unless you live in the country, or you're like got so much money that you don't really care.
So you can't live in the proper city without paying that tax every day.
Yeah. So I was just like, okay, well that's long, and also it's just like, who's buying a gas car right now? It's not the one. So then I had the Taycan experience. So I gave the last Mercedes. I had the Mercedes, and I gave that back. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to have a car for a while. And so I just started cycling everywhere, and that was cool. And then it got cold, right? and it got like, London winter cold. And I was like, and obviously, us DJs, we don't travel light, right? Even just going from the studio to home, you're always going to have like, I don't know, whatever.
You got a 808 under the arm.
Exactly. Naturally. Every morning. Anyway, the conclusion to this story is I bought a smart car.
Ooh, like a little tiny one?
I was looking at other cars, and I was like, like Mercedes, Audi, all of these cars, it's like it's in this like no man's land period, right? Where the technology, it's like, do you remember in sort of 2000 when you were like, whoa, he's got a plasma screen? What I mean?
Yeah, it is that.
Or in like 2002, they were like, yo, the screen's getting seriously flat, but it was like still sort of 6 inches thick or whatever. And the technology hadn't paid for itself. Well, that's kind of where it's at, certainly in Europe with electric cars. Like, you've either got a 100 grand Tesla or beyond, or you've, So I was like, I don't really like a lot of these electric cars, with the exception of the Taycan, which I love. But having that experience of driving it was the first time that I'd ever driven an electric car, right? And so once you get over the idea that when you're charging it, you're not filling up the gas in 5 minutes, but you're actually leaving it for an hour or whatever it is. Basically, I was going to petrol stations, I'm going to gas stations, as you would say, and I was looking at, I'm just... why are you shaking your head? There's no mockery in this. I'm just being. We
know what a petrol station is. Okay, we know what the word petrol means.
I'm being inclusive of both translations.
No, that is very sweet of you.
Tomato, soccer, football, chips.
We were just we were just pleased that you were being inclusive, and it was
French fries.
It was delightful to see.
Thanks. Yeah. So I was at the gas station, and some of the gas stations here have like 2 electric pumps and the rest are gas, right? And so as I was charging this Taycan, I was like looking at the gas pumps, and it was like literally looking at a ghost. When you're just like, when you look at something as, oh, it's the future, but then suddenly you realize, no, I'm in it now. This is now. So the idea of me buying another gas car was just, or leasing one, was just off the chart. So anyway, I was like, what do I do? While I decide, or if I decide to get a car that I could actually drive long distances with, I'm just going to give this a go. Because I was going to get an electric bike to do long distance drive, cycling. And I was like, no, this is the electric bike. This little go-kart.
Yes, that is the electric bike.
And like every time I've been to sort of places like Rome or Naples or like Paris or places with tiny streets, and you see people driving them, I always think, oh, the cars are for those cities, not really for London. But actually London is the same. There's like mad width restrictions everywhere. There's like, yeah, it's true. Like that. When I had the Porsche, I'd have to think about
road to take,
streets I was going down. Obviously, it was such a terrible problem, having to Think about it.
I feel for you. I feel for you.
Our heart goes
I feel
out
for
to you, Benji.
It was really painful. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, this is a really long answer to your question. But basically, I'm trying it out and I'm loving it, man, because it's like I'm faster in that little smart car, which is 100% electric. And also, it's like literally faster. And it's not faster as in the engine, it's or the battery or whatever.
More efficient way of travel.
Yeah. You can just get away. You can get around so much faster. So I'm just like, that's my little thing at the moment. But, hopefully by the next time I speak to you, I will have got myself a Taycan or something.
Well, Benji, the bump that you're going to get from appearing on this podcast should really get the gigs for next year. I think the festival emails are going to start coming in, and we'll be in the Taycan shortly.
Definitely. No, I'll be in the Maybach truck or something, or the Rolls Royce truck.
Remember us when you're in the Rolly, please.
Of course. I think Rolls Royce is definitely. That's a good LA car.
I agree with that. Plenty of room.
No one can argue.
Because you see, the thing is, you got to understand, right? It's about, and I know this is another thing that's hard to understand. You wanted to talk about like the nuances of Britishness with Oasis and Blur. The real thing to understand that's hard to explain to Americans sitting in LA, which I'm sure you will understand, is the fact that if I was to pull up outside your podcast right now in like a Porsche Cayenne, right? Like any car like that, you'd be like, sick. You'd be like, that's
exactly what I would say.
You'd be like, sick. That's cool. Oh man, wicked. Oh, that's cool. That's great. He managed to get himself.
Yes. Yeah, you're right.
A Bentley truck or whatever. That's great. Good for him.
How lucky I am that I get to be inside of this car.
Even if it was something way more humble than that, you'd just be like, yeah, cool. You wouldn't even think about it. It's LA. Pulling up in a Porsche in London or something more than that. English people are like, wanker. They're just sort of like, they're like, who does he think he is? Oh, it's so tacky. Oh, it's so over the top. Oh, why is he so flashy? There's all these things in this country that are hard to explain. You're
talking about guilt and shame?
Is that why you keep the chain tucked even when you're in the house?
Even when I'm in the house, bro.
For listeners at home, he's exposed his chain.
Even when I'm in the house.
It's weird. It seems to be it looks to be an iced out. It looks like a Ben Baller did the chain BBC logo, which is pretty crazy that you have that.
This is by my friend Othong Tai. It's actually like a custom Sagittarius chain that she does.
Sagittarius Hive stand up.
You have to check her work out. She's called Othong Tai. It's spelled OTHONG Tai THAI.
Othong Tai.
Othong Tai, yeah.
We'll check it out.
Wicked.
This is my chain and it is not tucked.
Damn, all right, let it swing, baby.
Full circle.
All right. Benji, it really was
picturing me with some like iced out Cuban link.
That's the idea.
It's like this.
That's the idea.
It's like this tiny thing.
I want people to think that, but Benji,
so what's the vibe in LA? Is it was COVID? Gim, just before you go, like this is
COVID's
funny. People
over, baby.
Yeah,
most people here. I think like half the people here have their vaccination already, and the other half kind of stopped caring about it. Some people are still getting COVID, but not really. People aren't really dying from it or getting seriously ill from it. Indoor dining is back, but I would say at like 25% capacity. Outdoor dining is going on everywhere. And, people still wear masks out in public, but it's a lot more relaxed.
What's your favorite restaurant in your town?
I like Persian food a lot. There's a restaurant called Rafi's that I like going to. Otherwise, there's a lot of different sushi places I like here. But, taco trucks, really hard to beat in LA. But just a proper In-N-Out is good enough for me.
Oh, you know what I do love? This just came to me actually. That tiny French place on
Petit Trois.
Yeah, man, that's a banger.
It is a banger.
And I went to is it Felix?
Yeah, that's for the pasta by the beach
with the focaccia situation. That's pretty banging too.
The focaccia is more than pretty banging. It's an essential bread.
I would say it's mental.
My friend Guillaume took me to this Korean place that was absolutely amazing. I can't remember the name of it.
Park's Barbecue.
There's a lot. There's a lot, man. No, it's like a little low key one. There's
maybe the low key Korean spots might be my true favorite.
But I'm out of date. I haven't been to LA since 2019. Like, we're not allowed in. We're not allowed in, bro.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I'm like, what are we going to talk about? But then I realized that's what a podcast is. It's just us talking. And
That's right.
Maybe there's 4 people left listening now.
No, Benji.
No. There's hundreds of thousands of people listening to this. I'm not exaggerating. We don't have quite the same. We don't have quite the same bandwidth as your little BBC or whatever they call it. But people do listen to this. Okay, so let's not get it twisted.
But people just love, snapshot of just 3 people talking and meeting for the first time. It can be about cars. It can be about parking. It can be about music, philosophy, anything.
Yeah.
These people are just doing their laundry or walking their dogs, so it doesn't matter. And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, it's very important. It's very important to reinstate that I am one of those people. Like, I think that's the whole thing about this life is that we live that high-low life. It's like as much smart car as it is Porsche, right? It's as much supermarket as it is flights to wherever. Like, obviously,
You're
when
right.
you talk on these things, you end up talking about the flash stuff because that's the stuff that's interesting to talk about. But actually, this last year has been 100% domestic, man. 100% like walk the dog and listen to the podcast, do the laundry, like work out how to reinvent yourself and survive. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's been real.
Try to keep the pounds off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You do. I have a problem with mayonnaise, Benji. You understand?
Hey, listen, if I lived in your town, I'd have a problem with just like wanting. Actually, no, it's super healthy there, man. It's so much healthier there than it is here.
That's true.
Although when you go to buy like some eggs and bread and a juice at Erewhon and it's like $200, you're like, what?
We wouldn't change it a single bit. You got your little Sagittarius chain. I got my little $18 coffee,
Wait, there you are. You know what's mad about America is the fact that they charge you the $18 for the coffee but then you have to tip. But you haven't been in a restaurant and you haven't like obviously like don't misunderstand what I'm saying. If I go to a restaurant even for 10 minutes, I'm delighted to leave a tip. But I don't understand the drive-through coffee thing where you also tip.
Benji, you don't have to tip. When I bought this, I didn't tip him shit.
Of course you have to tip.
Jason's cheap, Benji.
Come on, man. They hand you that iPad and it says 10%, 15%, 20%, and you have to do your signature. I know how it
Look,
works.
I tip if I go to my local coffee shop, of course I'm tipping. At Erewhon, I'm not tipping. Am I a bad person? Maybe.
You live your life, Jason. I'm a big tipper. I love to support small businesses like Erewhon.
I love tipping. I love tipping. The one that's weird though is have you ever seen that there's that Curb episode where Larry goes back to New York after he's been living in LA for a while and he goes to the hotel and the guy's like, this is a light switch. This is a curtain. This is a door, and he says, and now give me $20. Yeah.
So the Deviation is in stores now. You can stream it wherever records are streamed.
You can find it on all the streaming platforms. You can download it digitally. You can buy the WAVs or the MP3s if you're that way inclined, or you can buy a CD version or a quadruple vinyl box.
I'll be picking up the CD. And I'll download the WAVs.
Love a WAV. And then go...
I think that's on all the... Like, if you're a WAV guy, you can get that at, like, Beatport and all those places for the DJ heads that are listening. We got a lot. Amazon and all of that.
All those places. King, it was a pleasure. We will be tuning in to your show. We will check out the music. We will look for those live dates coming soon when they finally let you across the pond.
Oh, by the way, for anyone that is listening, that all of that stuff wasn't a plug, but this is a plug. Because I'm very happy to tell you that BBC Sounds is now available on your phone in America.
Ooh.
So basically, you can get the BBC Sounds app, and yes, you do have to sign up once. But once you've done it once, it's like you have to just most people are like allergic to that, right? It's like more than one click, and it's like no.
Yeah, well, that's not great.
Nobody wants to create an account, but okay.
No, I know no one does. But yeah, once you've done that. My show's on every week. It's on every Wednesday, but it stays on there for 4 weeks after broadcast. So there's always 4 shows that you can listen to at any one time. So if you just go to BBC Radio and type in my name, then you'll find the show.
Benji, at the end of every episode, we play a song, and usually I pick it, but I think...
No. You pick it. What are you going to pick?
We can't tell you. I mean, you're the selector. I mean...
But basically, I listen to the whole episode. I go in, I edit it. I make us all sound smart and funny, and I give us that perfect Larry David comedic timing. And then, just like a true selector, I find the perfect song and then add it to the end of the episode. So only God knows what's going to happen.
Excellent.
But it'll be inspired by our conversation. Don't worry.
I'm looking forward to hearing it, man.
I'm looking forward to making it. Well, Benji, thank you so much for taking the time. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for the invitation. I hope it's been interesting.
It has. Oh, of course. And don't work too hard. Don't stay in the lab too late. Okay. I don't. You know. I want you to get some rest.
I'm here for you. Just know that I'm here for you.
Thank you. Dead ass. Yeah. Check out Benji B, BBC Radio 1. I've always wanted to say that. We need a drop, Jason. We need a drop. This is Benji B. You're listening to How Long Gone.
You know, when you do interviews with like certain people and they're like, okay, let me tell, and then they're like really mellow and they kind of go, so what are the details? Mm-hmm. Just let me know when you're ready. And they go, yo, you listen to like,
yeah. That's exactly what we want. We want that Annie Mac level of excitement. We want the Annie Mac level of excitement.
Give us a big nasty.
Oh my God.
Give us a bit of EZ. Come on, man. Give us a nasty.
What am I saying?
This is Benji B.
This is Benji B. You're listening to How Long Gone.
Good evening. This is Benji B from London, United Kingdom, and you're now listening to How Long Gone.